Adam, I'll get to Dustin here in a second for the actual kind of numbers and things on how the Ohio launch went. But I just, from a sporting standpoint, we're sitting here. We talked about that it was very interesting to and kind of unfortunate for Ohio just in general that Ohio State makes the Final Four of the college football playoff. And they actually weren't allowed to bet on the game legally because the game took place on New Year's Eve when this actually goes live on New Year's Day at 12:01. But the most ironic, crazy, weird thing in the history of sports betting that probably will never happen again, where literally a game-winning kick for the team is going up as sports betting is going live. They watch it go wide, and then it's like, oh, by the way, you can bet live now. You can bet on sports if you want to. Like, that kick goes through, and you are about to get the best value on TCU that you've ever been able to get in the whole wide world, because every drunk Ohio State fan at midnight on New Year's Eve was going to be pounding the Ohio State Buckeyes. You were going to get TCU plus 17 or something like that. But it ended up coming to fruition. But it's just crazy. You could see the countdown to the kick and the ball dropping and then the kick going wide. It's just again, we'll never see anything like it for any of the stuff that we do.
The Ohio Casino Control Commission had the better part of a year to get sports betting up and ready. They knew when the college football playoff semifinals would be held, and you're telling me they couldn't have gotten it up one day sooner. Do you know the amount of money that was lost either to offshores, to bookies, or to other states by Ohio State not being able to receive wagers in Ohio? But preaching to the choir when it comes to that. It was remarkable. It was absolutely remarkable. And I feel badly for those who couldn't bet on Ohio State, because obviously, they couldn't bet on the Citrus Bowl either, right? They were so excited to be able to bet on LSU and Purdue, and I didn't even put in the rundown that our buddy Drew Brees apparently kept everybody from being able to place wagers in New Jersey on the Citrus Bowl. It's a damn shame that the equity stake in PointsBet kept everybody from being able to bet on the Citrus Bowl. I'm pretty sad.
So Dustin, how did things kind of go in general? Of course, we're only 4 days in here, but it was, I imagine we at least have some early kind of looks at how Ohio is going.
Yeah, we don't have revenue or such, but to circle back, yes, we have a lot of sports books live in Ohio. They all most of them went live right around midnight as the clock turned over. And I don't think Adam is really exaggerating when the revenue in Ohio would have been much different had Ohio State advanced. There's no question to that. Like, there'd been that excitement of that having that game to bet national championship futures and odds and what have you, live bets, that would have changed how much money is bet in Ohio in this first week. So it is a fascinating part of this. The one piece of data we do have, GeoComply, which does geolocation for almost every sports book in the United States, said it did 11.3 million transactions, geolocation, any kind of ping, things like that. It actually surpasses 9.3 million on the opening day of New York. So that's how much interest there was day one in Ohio. Now that's how that translates to revenue. It's not like these are pings for a geolocation or a financial transaction, not a one-to-one correlation, but very interesting to see that. Ohio had this whole year. People were pent up, and we've known for a long, long time that this date was coming, and it was going to be at midnight or that first day. Goes into to the NFL playing as well. So lots there. I'll also say I think Ohio is really interesting in that we're seeing more interest in responsible gambling out of Ohio than we have like every state combined. Almost, it's crazy what we've seen. We've seen DraftKings and Barstool fined for activity that is not RG compliant. DraftKings sent out messages sent mail to people who are under 21 about betting on sports. Barstool had an event on a campus and was pitching its sports book. And then Ohio also, is putting out messaging about free bets and making sure that you're having a responsible gambling message. I don't think, and Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, I have not seen this kind of interest from regulators on RG issues until just now. And it also rolls into Massachusetts, where we're seeing this being taken much more seriously. Dare I say, this is probably a good thing overall for the industry to start getting this level of interest. It's hopefully not too late, but I'm actually encouraged that we're seeing this level of attention to detail on responsible gambling in Ohio.
Dustin, think it's a direct correlation to the New York Times series. And I talked about the fact that there would be immediate repercussions, and maybe this isn't the worst one of them, where you start to see the industry in its own way try to self-regulate, right? And I'm not saying self-regulation from the books themselves. I'm saying it can be self-regulation from a level below the legislature, which tends to put in rules that are not as connected to reality as the regulators who deal with this on a day-to-day basis. And so we saw the questioning of Barstool in Massachusetts, which we're going to get to in a minute here. But I think it also leads in when you see the questions that came from the New York Times series, and then beyond that about how is responsible gambling being addressed, that Ohio decided to take a step forward in a way that other states haven't. And
Adam, just kind of circling back to what we were talking about with just the launch in general and how the Ohio numbers could have looked incredibly different had they even, gone one day sooner. Let's also not forget, the first legal thing that they could have bet on with a very big implication involved another Ohio team on Monday night in the Cincinnati Bengals, right? And these bets are all going to be refunded. These bets are all going to go down as non-action. And so what could have been, I think, from the first, initial month here, certainly even the initial first week in Ohio, could have been just drastically different from, I think, the number we're going to end up getting. I mean, look, anecdotally, and I can only imagine in Ohio on the first opportunity to bet on the game of the year in the NFL. I mean, I do a show out of the South Point. I was talking to the bookmakers there. That Monday Night Football game was the largest handle Monday Night Football game heading into Monday of the season, as would be imagined, because again, it was arguably two of the top three teams in the entire NFL that were playing on a Monday Night Football island game, right? And so, yeah, I mean, despite the fact that they didn't get Ohio State either in this revenue kind of push here in the first month, they're also not going to get that kind of game of the year either. So, I mean, I think we should look at these Ohio numbers when they come out at the end of the month, and we're looking at, they'll still be good because, shiny new toy and things like that, but realize like what could have been if 48 hours of either decision-making or tragedy had not gone down.
We actually have some numbers from GeoComply that I think will at least be able to tease out the transactions that were attempted, at the very least, from the revenue that is ultimately realized, right? Because these transactions, for the most part, are going to include money that changed hands. Now, some of that money is going to go back, but we have information from GeoComply that says over the first 2 days that Ohio had 11.3 million geolocation transactions by 783,000 unique users. And just for comparison, New York's first weekend, 9.3 million and 460,000. And the population of New York is about 8 million people larger than it is in Ohio. And you mentioned Cincinnati in particular. Cincinnati had 1.9 million of those transactions, which was double what we had out of Columbus at 1 million for number 2. So you see the interest that certainly is there in Ohio.